You know what it is they say about sequels. It's usually the longer that you wait to bring them out, the more problems you're going to have with those sequels, the more they kind of feel like cash grabs. For Zombieland, the surprise hit that was Zombieland, we've been waiting 10 years for a sequel, and now we have Zombieland Double Tap. And alls I have to say about waiting for 10 years for this one is, God bless Zombieland. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the sequel, 10 Years Waiting. This is Zombieland Double Tap. I will warn you, there'll probably be a few little spoilers here and there. I won't spoil the big stuff, but there's just general plot devices and things like that I'm probably going to talk about. I will not talk about the mid-credit and after-credit scene. The mid-credit scene is really funny. The after-credit scene is just kind of funny. It plays along with the mid-credit scene, but I will not spoil those. They were too funny to spoil. But what you have with this sequel is, even though they don't stress it, you could realistically say it is 10 years later from the first movie. They don't really say how long it's been. At least I didn't catch it if they did. But the group is still together. Columbus, Tallahassee, Wichita, and Little Rock are still together. When we come back with them, they're in Washington, D.C., and they've just moved into the White House. And but what you have is Columbus and Wichita are still together, but they're kind of in a rut. Their relationship just doesn't feel right. And also Little Rock is getting older, and she feels like Tallahassee is trying to be her father and treating her like a kid still. You see it in the trailer where he says, "What would you like, little girl?" And she's like, "I'd like you to stop calling me a little girl," you know. So some things happen, and just like in the first movie, Wichita and Little Rock decide to run off again. But in a little bit of a twist, Little Rock, then they meet somebody, Berkley, the hippie, the pacifist hippie, who of course isn't going to do real hot in Zombieland, of course. But he's about like 2 years older than Little Rock, so around her age. And in a twist of fate, Little Rock runs away from Wichita. And Wichita goes back to, well, she's there to steal guns, but Columbus and Tallahassee decide to go with Wichita to find Little Rock, and that's where the plot really begins. Also, one thing we learn is, even though they don't really show one of the kinds, there are evolved. Mainly show they say there's evolved zombies. There's the homers, which are basically your dumb everyday zombie, and they're dumber than most zombies because they get distracted and they're just not very smart. Then there is the Hawkings, who are the really smart ones. Those are basically like your Jurassic Park raptor of zombies. And then there's the ninja zombies, but they really don't do much with these, most of these new zombies, except for there's one other new zombie that they end up calling the T-800, because they're harder to kill, and they after the Terminator, of course, they just keep coming. They have Tallahassee double taps one of them, but then it gets back up. So they also have to deal with these new zombies, and the biggest threat is the T-800 zombies. Alright, so as I said in the intro, sorta, I was a little afraid of this movie, because we've been waiting 10 years. It's like, what kind of a story are they going to tell? Is it going to feel right? Are they going to be trying too hard? Is the humor going to be there? Is the violence going to be there in the right ways? And for the most part, I have to say yes. When it comes to sequels, especially waiting on one this long, this is about as good as it's gonna get. And that's not me saying that condescendingly. It's just saying that you wanted more of the same. You're getting more of the same. There really isn't. I mean, you've got evolved zombies. That's a change. You got the characters are older. Their relationships, they've gotten a little closer and also are kind of pushing each other away. You get some new characters involved. Some are better than others. I mean, there's some it's like you kind of wanted to see them die even though they didn't. There was one especially. And then just the other characters, I mean, they go from kind of annoying, which I would say that's the Madison character, even though she fits. I mean, it's all for a laugh. But then you get like the Nevada character played by the lovely and talented Rosario Dawson, who, the way they bring her in is pretty funny. But then they introduce some other characters as well, that are eerily similar to a couple of our main characters. And so just these little changes for me made it more than enough to make this a really fun sequel. When it comes to the humor, it's still very heavy on the sarcasm. And they even talk about that. The characters are snarky. The violence is still there. And now they not only have the zombie kill of the week, they also have the zombie kill of the year. Where I will say this, I was a little disappointed with what they may have considered the zombie kill of the year at the end. I mean, it plays into the story, but it was just kind of eh. But one of the zombie kills of the week they show from overseas is really funny. So those even get kind of ridiculous. I think I would have liked to have seen the movie maybe sacrifice just a tad bit of the story to give us like another big action scene. I mean, I didn't need, another huge action scene, but it would have been nice to get more like, like the shopping scene in the first one, just add something like that. I mean, they have a couple things like that. I would just like to see maybe one or two more of those. Would be the most improvement I would make on this movie, because you still like the characters. They're still, you like the main characters for who they are, even though they're not perfect. They still do the things with the rules. And then there's a kind of a counterbalance with another character who has his own set of rules. So there's kind of a thing going on there through part of the movie. It's fun to see like where the story leads them, because just like Tallahassee had the mission to get a Twinkie in the first one, which, by the way, the only reference that I noticed to Twinkies in this one was he had a stuffed animal on the front of one of the cars. But of the little Twinkie guy, whatever his name is, I don't know if he has an official name or not. But now Tallahassee wants to go to Graceland. So there's a lot of fun to be had there. There's really not a ton more to say about this movie, because again, it's real simple. If you like the first movie, you're going to like this one. I don't think it's going to be a disappointment for you. Maybe some might be disappointed because maybe they would want something more than more of the same. Even though, again, you get a little bit of changes here and there that I thought worked well enough to justify this sequel. I don't think I'd want to wait another 10 years for a sequel. I think if they're going to do another one, they should do another one, maybe 3-4 years or something, because I would like to see more of these characters. I'm not sure where you would go with them, but I mean, I'm sure they could think of something. Maybe they would need to wait another 10 years to find another story. Maybe we'll get it to where maybe we'll have one in like 30 years and they'll be in a retirement home or something. I don't know. It's just, I enjoy these characters. I enjoyed the first movie. Again, I went back and watched it and I still really liked it. And I really like this one too. And again, I will stress there is a mid-credit scene. and it does play into something in this movie, a line that somebody says. You'll know it when you see it. Something that happened in the first movie led to there being a word for something in this one. It's like, oh, this happened, and they, again, I don't want to say too much because it'll spoil it, but the mid-credit scene and in extension the after-credit scene play into this as well, and I had a really good time with this movie. Is it, the most phenomenal sequel ever? No. But if you enjoyed the original Zombieland, you're probably going to enjoy this one as well. If you didn't like the first Zombieland, this one isn't going to win you over. It's not going to change your mind. It's more of the same with things upped a little bit. And I had a good time watching it. And I enjoyed the first Zombieland, and I enjoyed this one too. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel. Like this video. If you have anything to say about Zombieland Double Tap, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. God bless Zombieland.